It's Sports by the Book at the South Point Studio. Here's Jeff Parles.
Welcome in. It's Sports by the Book, Football Friday here at the South Point Studio. Happy to be with you. I'm Jeff Parles, alongside of Gone Gaming, Vinny Magliulo, sportsbook director here at the South Point. Chris Andrews alongside. Gentlemen, it's a Football Friday. Doesn't get better than this.
Gentlemen, who came in? What's up, Jeffrey?
Hi, it's good to see you guys.
Happy Friday, buddy.
At some point, we expect Jimmy to be around.
He'll wander in.
He'll wander in.
Definitely.
Yeah, you know what? I hope it's mid-segment and he just has to come across.
Well, it has
That's
to.
what I hope.
It has to be.
That's what I really hope.
The wander across the stage in front of the camera. Absolutely.
So,
By the way, we have a lot of stuff to talk about.
yeah, I would say so.
Well, we got tonight's football, we got Saturday's football, we got Sunday's football, and there's a Monday night game.
A Monday night game.
Only one.
Only one.
Only one this week.
But it's also moved all over the place, that Monday night game this week.
Mm-hmm.
So
we got a game in London as well. So
I was asking Vinny before if he was going to watch the Toy Story broadcast, and he shot me down immediately.
Don Rickles. Who's going to play Don Rickles? Who's Mr. Potato Head?
It's a burning question.
Right? I don't want this AI. No. Otherwise, I'm out.
So before we get to college football, and there are 4 games tonight, and a few. There's 3 Power 5 games. The new teams in the Big 12 do battle in Provo. Questions at the quarterback position.
I keep forgetting they're Power 5 now, but we got a ton of business on that game.
Conference game, no less, in
the
Big 12
exactly,
for Cincy and BYU. But Vinny, real quick, last night, a result that was good for the bettors last night.
Yeah, I think the public, the bettors got off to on a good note. Remember the Lions went off right before we went off the air yesterday, Jeff. South Point went to 2.5 on that game, and that was a game that opened 1.5 initially, went down Packer money, but it was pretty much of a steamroll yesterday. So the Lions game, but the college games, and then of course the last game of the night, which is always enjoyable when you have a game either that you get sided on or middled on, and it happens to be the highlight for the whole afternoon. We're reliving it. The Jacksonville State, Sam Houston State. We were commenting yesterday, how could that total be so low? Both of them almost went over by themselves. 36 the total closed yesterday. We went off the air 36.5. Wasn't low enough. And then, of course, Jacksonville State prevails in overtime, 35-28. By the way, they were down by 8 with about a minute to go. So a good day, a good start to you. The fuse, I call Thursday the fuse that lights the it lights the potential Monday bomb, Chris.
It's amazing over the years how poorly we've done on Thursdays. And Thanksgiving has been the worst of all. And I got to tell you, personally, I love Thanksgiving. I love getting together with family, eating turkey and all that stuff. I have taken a monetary bath throughout the years on Thanksgiving.
Yeah. Well, people betting against the Lions.
And on the Cowboys.
And which usually, this year, if you bet against it will be the opposite.
It might be the opposite.
Might be the opposite. People betting on the Lions. And
we'll see about the Cowboys.
Cowboys play the Commanders on Thanksgiving. So who knows what the Commanders will look like.
We'll get to some pro. I got a lot to say about the Cowboys.
Please.
When we get to that. We're doing the pros in the second hour.
Will diminishing returns make an appearance today?
I believe it will.
That's good. That's good. That was on the bingo card for me.
It is.
So
okay.
Be ready to go.
We've got another game over there with some diminishing returns.
Just slightly. Let's go to tonight. Let's start in the college ranks here. You know, Chris, this Brom guy knows how to coach. Obviously, we've seen what's happened to Purdue this year, Louisville. Mm-hmm. I mean, fan base was thrilled to see Satterfield leave for Cincinnati, and now the prodigy comes home, and Louisville is undefeated going into this game tonight in Raleigh against NC State. A little bit of toggling, as Vinny would say, on this number.
Yeah, this one, we've been at 3.5. One of my pretty big players. I wouldn't necessarily call him a wise guy. He likes to bet. But he just took the +3.
Okay.
On this game, and it seems like it's one of those games. And I wrote down a lot of moves, a lot of plays today. Before this one guy bet, it was all
Cardinals.
Well, it was all Louisville from the public, but the wise guys were taking the 3.5. And this kid, like I said, even though he's not really a number mover or anything like that, he does bet. He bets strong. And he does okay, I can tell you that. So he took the +3, so he likes the dog here. Public definitely on Louisville.
He bets the sides and totals, right, Chris?
Sides and totals.
Yeah. Wow. Good. I mean, listen.
And by the way, I got my sheet here, and I was showing. I think I showed you too, Jeff, before we got on. Showed Vinny. This is just today's action, and these are just the colleges.
It's a full back page.
48 limit bets in colleges today. Just that's besides. We do got a lot of guys ain't betting limits either, by the way. But I got four. I got in this morning. I says, I'm going to write down the limit bets today. 48 of them, and there's a couple on this Louisville game at -3 and then +3.5, and then this other the kid I just told you about. He took the +3. I didn't move it just because there are some 3.5s around, but he bet strong. I mean, we take 10,000 on these, and he bet it. I just didn't happen to move it.
It's an interesting game. It's an interesting game to see, at least from Louisville's perspective, where, let's face it, now that Clemson has 2 losses in conference, it is wide open for that second spot to join Florida State and Charlotte. I know Duke, North Carolina, those teams may have something to say about it, but hey, what's stopping Louisville at this point, Vinny?
Yeah. No, I don't. Not a whole lot. I mean, again, here's the thing: there's teams, they're in control of their destiny, right? I mean, and the way it's structured in the ACC. Let's remember, it's the first and second place team that'll
no division
go to the the Coastal and the.
It was the Atlantic and the Coastal. Yeah, it doesn't exist anymore.
No more. So first and second place teams, head-to-head tiebreaker is going to come into play in all likelihood, given some of these records that you pointed out.
Louisville will host Duke later this year, and they will go to Miami the last week of the season, the last week of conference play for them before the showdown in the Bluegrass State against Kentucky, the final week of the season. Don't worry, we'll get to Kentucky later. They have a big moving game as well against Florida on Saturday.
By the way, those 2 teams you mentioned earlier, Duke and Miami,
yeah.
I had both those penciled in as not being very good this year. Man, I was dead wrong. I thought Duke would kind of come back to the middle, sort of. Miami, I just didn't like the coaching stuff. But you know what? They added a lot of good assistant coaches, I think, that really helped their squad. But they're much better than I thought.
Miami made it's rare to say that a firing makes such a big difference. But getting Gaddis out of there and changing the offensive staff, Van Dyke looks like he did 2 years ago again, unlike what he was last year, where he totally fell off a cliff last year.
And Duke looked like they would be a classic regression to the mean team. But they've played well, and I think they're really good. And we'll get to the Duke Notre Dame game in a little while, but they're legit. They're a good team.
Riley Leonard's a good college quarterback, and I think it's been pretty clearly put together now that Mike Elko can coach.
Absolutely.
2 years now, taking over for Cutcliffe, and they're going to be in a bowl.
I think Cutcliffe was a really good coach, but I think maybe he
ran out of gas.
It was time. Yeah, it was time. Sometimes it's just time for a change.
And no letdown after the Clemson win.
No, not at all. I mean, look at last week, too. Last week was, with Notre Dame on deck, that was a classic look-ahead spot, and they blasted Connecticut out of there on the road last week. All right, Vinny, real quick on this one. A pick, La Tech, UTEP, toggling between one. Actually, it was one on both sides at one point.
Yeah, it's gone back and forth. Again, UTEP opened 1. La Tech was at 1 point, a 1-point favorite. I mean, it's basically a pick 'em game, and overall 2-way action, but good action, as Chris pointed out. I mean, it's a nice Friday card here when you look at it. Positioned nicely as well. When you look at the timing of these games, right, Chrissy, we got 4:00 Pacific, then a couple at 6, and then a primetime game at 7:15. Pacific time. So these are positioned nicely from a timing standpoint too.
Yeah, I was writing down our limit bets before the show, just during the course of the week. Not all of them today, of course. I got +1 on either side. So game can't come tied. Hoping it doesn't come one either way at this point in time. That would that'd be the only thing that would hurt us a little bit. But I got to tell you, the other 3 games are bet a lot stronger than this one.
Yeah, that's not a shock. To me, at least, this is the undercard in comparison to the other ones. Oregon State, Utah. This is a
good one.
Good one in the Pac-12 and an important one in the Pac-12, especially for the Beavers, where I think it is pretty open for whoever can still get to Las Vegas for the Pac-12 championship game. But, Chris, it doesn't look like Cam Rising's going to go again tonight. Nate Johnson, the expectation he's going to start, and the number has moved because of it.
Well, sometimes, price will tell you what's going on. And this one, we had some +3 early in the week, but since then they laid me the 3, they laid me the 3.5. 4 looks like a pretty good number right now. But again, it looks like Rising, by the betting action and by the number, probably not going to play. I got to tell you, I still think that number's a little high. I think I would, if I was out there, I think I would be looking to take the 4. Utah still has a great defense. Total's relatively low. I'm at 43.5.
Mm-hmm.
I'm looking. I got some good money on the under. But I mean, I am half point lower than anybody else. But I think it's going to be a tight game. I think I would take the 4 certainly before I'd lay it. And I think still Utah's a pretty live dog with or without Rising.
Yeah, I mean, Chris, he summed it up beautifully. I don't see unless it goes to 4.5. If it does get to 4.5, I think it's an automatic take. If it gets, because the number's telling you that he's probably out.
Yeah,
the way the number's moving.
Utah last week, they scored 7 offensive points.
Yeah.
They needed a stop at the end to beat UCLA 14-7, where UCLA's offense was an abject mess the entire game.
But still, Jeff, you hold a
7
Pac-12 teams to
Jim
7
Kelly
points.
To 7 points
Yeah,
is impressive.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
this team's a hell of a defense,
Yeah.
and I think they're going to keep this game. I mean, if this final was 17-14, would you be
Wouldn't
surprised?
shock me.
No, not at all.
13-10 wouldn't shock me.
Yeah, I think right now you got to look to take the points, especially the move off the original 3, with or without Rising. I think the dog probably the right side here.
All right, let's hit the last one, and then we'll welcome Jimmy in as the minus 140 on the S will cash there.
Thank you.
Vinny. The conference matchup of Cincinnati and BYU. Throw out the record books when these teams play here, Chris. So this one's been an interesting mover throughout the week. You guys opened BYU 2.5, and then went all the way to Cincy 1.5, then Cincy 1, and now not too long ago, you guys went back to BYU 1 here.
10 minutes before showtime, I think we went back to BYU 1. Man, we got a lot of business on this game. It's going to be the late game, like I like to call it, the get even or get even worse game. But we got a lot of money here. A lot of play on the total as well. They bet me under 50, under 49. I went to 48. They bet me back over the 48. So I'm at 48.5. I'm kind of at the low water mark right now, but just a ton of business on this game. But it's a good one. I don't have any strong opinion in this one. I think it's, numbers hovering right around pick'em. That's probably what it should be.
I did bet BYU plus the 2 when it got there at another shop. You know what? I was a little surprised. In all honesty, I thought BYU, your opener, I thought that was right. Personally, I think this is 2 mediocre offenses. Quarterback play, BYU Slovis is better than Emory Jones. Coaching staffs I don't really like. I don't really like either of these teams. But
you like the 2.
But it's a tough place
I like
to
the
play.
number.
It's a tough place to play though in Provo. Still.
No, it is.
It's a sellout crowd. Cincinnati's going to be going to elevation for a team that's not used to it. And I still think Sataki's a better coach than Satterfield. So I'll take, even at this, again, I think you're getting closer to what the right number should be with BYU being favored again. But who knows? Who knows? Again, you're dealing with 2 teams that I don't think are particularly good. So anything's in play.
Handle game of the night.
It should be. Yeah. And it's the late game, too. 7:15 Pacific.
Course, yeah.
So you'll be going through everything. All right. We're going to take a quick break. When we get back, Jimmy, he's in studio. We'll get Jimmy Vaccaro to join us next. Sports by the Book, South Point Studio. Welcome back in at Sports by the Book here at the South Point Studio. I'm Jeff Parles. Chris Andrews is here. Vinny Magliulo is here. Hello, Jimmy. How you doing?
How am I doing? You guys are relaxing and I'm working. You think it's easy doing nothing? Try it for a while. All right, now I'm going to hit my colleagues and obviously you also. We have a difference of opinion here. Now, we've taken a bet on tell them.
Oh, this poor soul. Taking 9.5 with the Jets, $22K to win $20,000.
Okay, now you guys are all here having a good time. I was wrestling behind the counter there because this guy, he wanted to list quarterbacks. He said he wanted to take this only if Namath was the quarterback. Now, Joe's been sticking in their butt, hasn't he?
Well, I got news for you. That guy's not the only guy asking for Namath.
Right now, he'd probably settle for Micah White.
I'd settle. That'd be great.
Yeah. Are you kidding me?
When I walked in, Chris says that he thinks it's going to be the top number on the game.
I do.
Oh, yeah,
I don't think that'll. I don't. What do I know? I'm sitting right here. I don't think you'll see 10 on this game.
Wow.
I kind of think it might because it's the late game, depending on how the rest of Sunday goes and the propensity for the public to be on the favorite. I don't know. I could see either one.
So right now, just so move to 9, and There are 8.5s in the market on this game now.
There is.
So I tend to agree with Chris that 9.5 is going to be the high water mark. Yeah. Maybe he'll get back there on Sunday evening, but I don't think this game ever touches 10.
Maybe Namath is quarterbacking.
Well, maybe it's Tim Boyle. Who knows?
Well, I looked at, I charted just some of the max bets before we got on the air, and somebody did lay me 9 and laid me 9.5. I didn't go to 10. Mm-hmm. I felt that they would take the 9.5, and they did. But yeah, I thought 9.5's the high water mark that we're going to see there, and evidently Mr. 22 Dimes feels the same as I do.
Well, the best thing about this is obviously on a serious note, it's like here we are with all these years behind us, and we see a lot more of these tickets now than we ever did. Mm-hmm. First of all, the people that bet these type of things. Now, I don't know who this guy was or whatever he does, whether he's a big player to some degree trying to sneak something in there that we wouldn't notice or whatever. But this I can tell you. We're seeing more and more of these, which shows you the industry is getting bigger and bigger, and there are more people coming, betting big numbers. Chris, every time that I run into you when you're back sitting at your desk and I see you, going through all the kids, and the kids are telling you what's going on. I mean, the idea, let's just go back just a short 20 years ago. We might have had 5 or 6 of these type of, $20,000 bets. Now it's commonplace. Yeah. I mean, the other day, like the weekend, Chris's your stack was this thick on big plays. So
I wrote down, sheet. This is just today, Chuds.
Just today.
These are limit bets in college.
Oh, wow.
48 of them.
48.
Just today in college. So, I mean, I don't know. I think, the word has kind of gotten out that, we'll, and by the way, we do there's a lot of two-way action on a lot of these games. And I always say there's no wise guy union. One guy likes -7, the other guy likes +8. Come on in. We're looking to accommodate you. But our handle, and even I've been saying it for a while, our handle's been way up. And I went, so last night, the same Thursday last year, up 25%.
Wow.
See,
go ahead, Vinny.
I was just going to say that's an interesting point that Chris brings up, and set up by Jimmy's comment. I think what's important, you could always predict, the highs for the fall and the winter, right? The weekends, week 1 because you've got 4 months to book it, Thanksgiving weekend. But when we see this progression on a week-to-week basis of the increase in handle, it speaks to how mainstream sports betting has become and how much it continues to grow. So I think if there's a trend this year that we've not seen, it's that progression on a week-to-week basis for the increase in the handle.
I think I've been saying from the beginning, with PAPSA, I mean, at first it took a little hit on us, but it was going to grow the market, and it's grown the market. Yeah. So I say we're up 25%. This was never exactly Sleepy Hollow. You know that.
Course.
I mean, So it's 25% on top of a pretty good number beforehand.
Well, it's 25% on top of probably the best, one of the better years you ever had last year, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And the other thing, and obviously we, to some degree, we could feel it coming. And then the big push was, and we all agreed with it right when it started to happen, is like when the states started to start booking. A lot of the old-time book guys that own these joints say, no, we don't like that, it's not going to happen, whatever. They were dead-ass wrong, because that just, it creates more interest. And then like a person like way back when, he could only make the bet in Arizona with the illegal bookmaker. He gets in his car and he drives in, and he's here in an hour and a half. In California, there's no doubt, Chris, because like we run into him, and like I get, where you from? Bakersfield. Where you from? There. And that helped everything. And as we both jokingly to some degree said, we have no idea when it's going to stop. It'll never stop. But I keep saying, well, maybe it's getting bigger. Yeah. It's getting bigger and more people. The thing out there, you people will enjoy this, because obviously people will come in, they will sign up on the phone app, and then what they do, they go back to California, watch the games. They get their tickets here, then they go. And I still say, if I had a choice, which I don't, if you would just give me California or Texas, you'd have one joint. You'd still do more business than you can only imagine.
I'm glad they didn't open in California.
You're right.
They're all coming in.
It has to be. Sooner or later, someone's got to say, what the hell
Sooner or later,
doing?
but I might be retired.
But we'll always be okay.
Yeah.
It'll never be
We'll figure out
but.
a way.
Yeah.
So that's it. So like I said, the Jets got, all right, here, me and you are having a bet for Michaels. You're going to pay or I'm going to pay if this thing don't go to 10. You're saying no. You're saying it's not going to go to 10.
I'm with Chris. I think
No, I'm
9.5.
asking you. Who are you with?
I'm with Chris. I think 9.5.
No, I'm asking you. Who are you with?
I think 9.5 is going to be the top of the market.
Okay.
I think 9.5 is going to be the top of the market. With that said, I think Kansas City wins this game comfortably.
Are you going to take us to dinner if you lose? I'll take you to dinner if you win.
You have the rubber stamp? Can we use the rubber stamp for all of them?
Yes, you can use it.
Okay.
You don't want to bet Michaels. That's
I know, it's a pretty
that's
betting.
pretty sizable
The
bet.
stamp, you're going to use it at the hot dog stand.
Yes, I'll use it.
That you could do.
There we go.
Yeah.
Yes, there we
By
go.
the way, it's cash only at the hot dog stand. So if you need a buck and a half, I got it
ain't
for
got
you.
much cash. I just got the stamp. I only got $40.
I got a $10 bill I could get
Okay.
all four of us.
Yeah.
Did your wife give it to you before you left the house?
No, I actually had it on my own,
You
shockingly enough.
snuck
I'll
it
see you
out.
later. Goodbye. I
Jimmy,
got to go do
thank you
stuff.
All right,
See you guys
Jimmy
later.
Vaccaro, everybody.
This way or this way?
I go in front.
Wherever you have to.
Yeah, yes,
there you
yes.
go. There he goes, ladies and gentlemen.
J-E-T-S.
There he goes. I'm with you. I think it's going up.
We'll go to 8.
I got all my uncles. Trust me. They're trying out right now in the rain.
You know, it's
Let's find out who Lenny Dawson has before we do it.
we'll get back to that game a little bit
Yeah.
later. I'm with you though, Chris. I think 9.5.
I think that's a high water
I
mark.
think the high water. Look, maybe it touches 10 for a very short period of time on Sunday,
You
but
never know.
as Vinny would say, it would have to be. It'll be maybe a minute and a half.
Don't blink.
Don't
Yeah.
blink,
Don't blink.
as they would say. All right, back to college football here. Sports by the Book is the show here at the South Point Studio. I'm Jeff Parles, Chris Andrews, Vinny Magliulo alongside as always. All right, Chris. I was initially going to skip this game, but
Yeah.
but you said no. We got to talk about it.
It's one of
because
our biggest games of the week.
It's one of the biggest games of the week. Because as everyone expected, when Bowling Green goes to Atlanta to take on Georgia Tech, you got to throw out the record books.
That's what they say. Yeah.
And this is, Chris, I'm a little amazed by this one.
Yeah.
Where Bowling Green hasn't really shown much of anything this year. You open 23,
Yeah.
up to 24, back to 23, 22, 21 and a half, and now we sit at 21 on this game down there in Atlanta with the Jackets laying it.
I got to tell you. So when I made my numbers this week, so I come in, I made the game 18.
Okay.
But I opened 23. I saw it go to 24. I said, maybe I haven't found the bottom yet from Bowling Green,
Right.
Because they are way down there. But I'm thinking it's Georgia Tech. I mean, so
Very average.
I
team.
kind of, we had a little bit of money minus 23. I said, the hell with it. I'm going to move it. I went to 24. I don't know if 24 lasted a minute. They took the 24. I said, I should have, followed my own instincts. I go to
90
23.
seconds, Chris.
Is that right?
90
okay.
seconds,
Oh,
yeah.
good.
Yeah.
Look at you.
Yeah.
I'm not going to get anything
You can
past
read
you.
that.
Yeah.
You see these computers. These
yeah.
kids with the
90
computers, man.
seconds.
So, I go to 20. I go to 24. 20, then I go to 23. Then I go to 23 or 23 and a half.
2023.
23.
I went to 23. They took the 23. Now I'm thinking, I see the bottom falling out of this game. I skipped all those other numbers. I think I had 22 for a little while and then went to 21 and a half, and they took that. Like I said, I think my original number was probably right. I don't know that we've seen the bottom yet on Bowling Green, but like I said, you got to look at the opponents, Georgia Tech. But right now, as it stands, Jeff, this is one of my biggest games of the week.
Georgia Tech, one of your biggest needs, as you expected.
I
Going
got-
into the
yeah,
week
right.
on Monday
Who
when they
thought?
went up.
Yeah.
Well, it speaks to what we oftentimes talk about, right? It's you don't have to bet every game. We're
Right.
going to book every game,
Of course.
but now who is betting this game too, right? Chris, let's face it. This is
nothing but the wise.
this is not your casual your casual
You're
college
telling me
fan.
the regular guy's
So,
not going to the window.
I
and
can-
betting Bowling Green?
I think
I
he's
can tell
looking
you-
more at the game right
Yeah,
after.
right.
Yeah, I'd say so.
Or the game right above it. I mean,
Yeah.
but
So we should move on.
So-
but I just want to hit
It's
that. That's
fascinating.
been one of the biggest, like the professionals.
Of course.
They don't bet teams; they bet numbers, and this number
There you go.
was too high.
A game that's going to have a lot of orange in it, guys. Syracuse hosting Clemson. Clemson has 2 losses. It's not even the end of September.
Mhm.
Syracuse comes into the game undefeated, and Vinny, 7, 6.5. Now back to 7 right now as we sit with the Tigers laying it at the Carrier Dome. I don't care what they call it now. It's still the Carrier Dome.
That's right. It's still, again, it's a matter of the number. Taking 7 and laying 6.5 once they do take it. So, Syracuse, a surprise. I think Chris and I we've talked about Syracuse. I mean, to this point now, have they had the most difficult schedule so far? Not necessarily, but still, they play hard. Babers he does a good job, and he motivates his team. Now, Clemson, we're seeing Clemson in. We don't say this a lot about a Clemson program, but they're in transition. Let's face it, especially their biggest need is going to be in recruiting is going to be that quarterback position in all likelihood. No, I'm not singling anybody out, but that's the reality of it. They had stability at quarterback, for several years. You had Lawrence, and before Lawrence, you had Watson. So that's not the case now, and the transfer portal hurt them because Tagovailoa was in that program, but now with the transfer portal and the ability to be immediately eligible wherever you go, then we're seeing the effects of that. But this one here is laying 6.5, but taking 7, Chris.
Yeah, that's a classic game. But this is what I'm saying that we have a lot of games like this as we run down with great two-way action. Laying 6.5, taking 7, limit bets both ways. Once again, there's no wise guy union. Some guys like the minus 6.5. God bless them. Other guys like the plus 7. God bless them too. Come on in and fire away.
I have absolutely no clue on this game. I think that 6.5, 7, both are reasonable. 7's fine.
Yeah, I made the number 6. I just thought maybe at 7 it might be a little bit of a take. I mean, but it's tough to go crazy over 1 point differential in a college game.
Exactly, and Syracuse really sleptwalked in the first half last week against Army, and then woke up in the second half. Totally
fell 9, I think. Right,
13.
Much. 13,
29-16.
Yeah, Phil. I guess the number was 13. I was just thinking it was on the number. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So Syracuse, and again, Clemson has had problems up in Syracuse
they have had,
for whatever reason
over
the years. So this again, ACC wide open now for that second slot in the title game after Florida State. So
Syracuse still in the hunt.
Syracuse 4-0. Haven't played a conference game yet. Schedule gets a little more difficult now.
Sure does,
Clemson at UNC at Florida State the next 3 weeks for the Orange. So it could very easily fall out of the mix very quickly. All right, let's go to another Big 12 game. Baylor at Central Florida. First game at home in conference play for the Knights. Of course, last week, quarterback injury. They lose. They don't cover in Manhattan. Kind of a brutal spot, in all honesty, to open your conference play. All right, welcome to the league. You get to go to Manhattan in a night game. K-State found a way, got it done. Covered.
You wanted to join.
You wanted to join. Here you go. Baylor has had all sorts of quarterback issues. Shapen hurts his knee in the first game in the loss to Texas State. They've had on the third stringer last week in the game they got destroyed by Texas. Not much of a shock there. But, Chris, the number is starting to come down on Baylor here as the bettors are taking the Bears plus the points.
Jeff, I saw this number open kind of 10.5, 11, even some 11.5. I opened 11.5. I had made the game myself 13.
Okay.
So when I've got the first bet, they laid me the 11.5. Yeah, they laid me 11.5. I saw it going up. I went to 12.5 with it. Well, since then, it's been all dog money, all Baylor money. Including today. I had a lot of business on this one today. They took 12.5. They took 12. They took 11.5. I'm down to 10.5 with the game. But still, there's a lot of public money on Central Florida. I'm not sure that's not the right side either, by the way.
Right.
So I'm in decent shape with this one. I want to mention the total here, too. Total's another one of those games. Over 55, under 56. A lot of two-way action on this one. So right now, I'm happy with where we are. If I go in here needing Central Florida, I'm okay with that, and I think that's probably the way it's going to be.
I'm thinking maybe the take is with a team that's been in the conference a bit longer, but look, it's Central Florida. We've seen them on the improve for the last several seasons, so maybe a good spot for them, especially if it gets to 10.
It has been a pretty brutal start to the year for the holdover schools that we thought would be a little bit better this year in the Big 12. Baylor's 1-3, quarterback injuries. Texas Tech, a team that a lot of people liked going into the year.
Yeah,
I thought they were a dark horse to make it to Arlington. Nope, they're 1-3. Their quarterback breaks his fibula last week. Their season is cooked. Oklahoma State still doesn't have a quarterback.
Oh, that's been one of my most disappointing teams.
Yeah. I mean, they scored 27 points last week, still lose to Iowa State, who can't score. It has been a really tough go for a few of the teams that you would have expected more out of going into the year in the Big 12. Again, right now, Baylor 10.5-point dogs in Orlando, Central Florida. This is a 3:30 local in Orlando, 12:30 Pacific time. And like you said, Chris, toggling between 55 and 56 on the total right now at 55. All right, let's go. Let's keep it in the South. Let's go to Knoxville next. Chris, Tennessee, South Carolina. Tennessee right now 11.5-point favorites against the Gamecocks at Neyland Stadium.
That was another one. They took, I'm not in bad shape here, but they took 12.5, which I opened. Took the 12. I'm at 11.5. I got some minus 12 money too. So again, I'm not in bad shape. Not a real feel for this game. I think numbers may be a shade high. I think I kind of like South Carolina in this spot. Tennessee, I had Tennessee penciled in as not as good as last couple years.
I agree.
Certainly as good as last year. Yeah. And I think South Carolina's team on the rise, and I like them a little bit in this spot. I think this is kind of a high price.
Total seen quite a bit of action, right, Chris?
Yeah.
63.5 on the opener, got as low as 59.5. Find that threshold to see where we can get some over money. It looks like it came in. I think we're 60.5 now. So, but quite more overall movement with the total so far. So, but look, there's something for everybody, whether it's in this game or certainly on the board.
Yeah, this is a quick pass from me. I'm not high on Tennessee. I'm with Chris. And look, going from Hendon Hooker to Joe Milton's a big downgrade.
Mm-hmm.
And at some point, Heupel's offense is going to run into some speed bumps along the way when they don't have elite quarterback play. And it would not shock me. Again, I don't think they'll lose this game, but it wouldn't shock me if South Carolina's tight in on them, at least for a while here. Again, South Carolina up double digits in Athens a few weeks ago, and then Georgia decided to play the second half, and we all saw what happened in that one. All right, keep it in the SEC East here. This is an important game, really, for second place in the SEC East at this point.
Right.
Kentucky hosting Florida. Chris, you guys opened Kentucky 2.5. Now Kentucky 1.5. Total's been bet to the under as well in Lexington for this one.
Well, I took some dog play on Florida. When we opened, and let me see what was around at the time. I even saw as high as 3 when I opened.
There was some 3.
So I opened 2.5. I thought 3 may be a little bit high, but I do kind of like the favorite in this one. But we got all the way down. I think we were at Pick'em for a while. They came back in on Kentucky this afternoon sometime. One of those limit bets I took from a guy. Guy bets a lot and wins. I'm not, but there's a pick 'em around at -1, but he bet me -1. I went back to 1.5. Excuse me. I'm just not a big Florida guy this year. I
agree.
I kind of favor Kentucky here. I think the opening number, again, not a huge disparity if you're out betting that you'd let a 1.5 to influence you in a spot like that, but maybe you would. I think I like Kentucky.
Yeah, dog first now, favorite money. I mean, two-way action. So total went up from 44, and now back down to 43. So these two have played some pretty entertaining games in recent years too. So they haven't been short on nail biting when it comes time to covering the number, no matter who you bet.
Yeah. Correct. Yeah, Kentucky pretty quiet 4-0 here.
Yeah,
very quiet so far. Blowout victories against Ball State and Akron. They really struggled at Eastern Kentucky a few weeks ago, which made no sense. And then really took it to Vanderbilt last week in a 17-point win in Nashville.
Kentucky's one of those teams I always scratch my head. They're so good in basketball and have been good in basketball for 60 years, something like that. How come they're not good in football? Yeah,
I mean, Kansas, Duke. We'll get to Kansas and Duke.
Well, Duke, I can understand. It's a small school. Kansas, I would say the same thing.
Yeah.
They should be up there, and let's throw in Indiana too.
Yeah,
why not?
I will say this: Mark Stoops has really done an incredible job.
He has.
In Lexington.
That program's gotten better and better every year.
He's been in a bowl game every year since 2016. Which that program was in the depths of despair for a long while.
And they draw, by the way. I mean, we
they
know
do.
that
They do
draw
well in the conference games for sure. Yeah,
Rupp Arena for basketball. To Chris's point, but their games sell out. For football as well.
Let's go to this one here real quick, Chris. Boston College and Virginia, pretty ugly game on paper here.
Yeah,
BC 3.5-point favorites at home against UVA, but really the story here, the total's been really smacked down in this game.
Yeah, this is one of those, Jeff, that I told you, we got to throw this in. I just have a ton of business on this game, and you just never know, especially with us. We don't juice numbers, so we're 3 flat. We're probably one of the only ones. Now we're at 3.5. There's a lot of 3.5s around. But early on, they took the 3.5, went to 3, they laid the 3. We're back to 3.5. But a lot of business on this game, and I think Vinny's going to talk about the total. But yeah, we got a lot of money there too. What did we open that total?
55, right?
55, right?
We're down to 51.5. So that'll tell you what we're going to need tomorrow afternoon.
Steady stream of under. I think the weather might be playing a part in this too, right?
Well,
the weather is bad there today. I think it's going to be bad. Looks like tomorrow as well.
Well, New York is underwater right now.
Yeah, so it's. I think the front is heading.
So that front is heading north.
North. So probably
15-mile-an-hour winds too with mediocre offenses. That's usually not a good recipe for scoring.
Yeah. So total move, continue to move down and move quickly.
Yeah, I'm at the low water mark. I'm looking at 51.5 for me, and I see it's
mostly 52.5.
Yeah.
Let's go to Durham next. This is Notre Dame missed a golden opportunity last week. 1 yard away. Hold them out of the end zone. You have 10 guys on the field. Chris.
How about the guy, Freeman, who I've talked so highly of as a coach? He said he didn't want to substitute because it would have been a penalty. Yeah, you're this far from the goal line. What's the penalty? This?
Yeah, it's a
get another man on the field. If you get a penalty, so what?
Well,
one man got to mean half a yard.
And also, they were playing coverage from the 1 yard line. And they still almost made the play. They still were very close to making the play. Of course, that game lands 3 and all chaos ensues because of the replay with putting a second back on the clock when it didn't need
I had 3 on my ties win parlay card, and of course that was the biggest college bet of the day.
Too soon, Jeff. Too soon.
Look, I would have liked all my Notre Dame numbers to get there, but in the end, they do not. So now they go. It's just an interesting spot for Notre Dame because you go on the road to Duke. Look, it's weird to say it twice in one season, but now after taking care of Clemson in week 1, this is the biggest home game Duke has had in a while. Where if you beat Notre Dame, you are now fully arrived on the national
TV.
Yeah, national TV, national landscape. And hey, look, I know it's not a conference game, but it can only help Duke moving forward if you pull an upset as a 5.5-point dog at home against Notre Dame.
I still have Notre Dame a little bit higher.
Right.
I made the game 8. We've been going back and forth, toggling between 5.5 and 6, and we've had limit bets both ways. Once again, I say, sharp guys come in, both outfits, there are many outfits, have different opinions and lots of money to back their opinions with. I got a lot of money minus 5.5. I got a lot of money plus 6. This should be a really good game, and I don't know. I have a feeling this will be the highest bet game of the day tomorrow.
Yeah, 4:30, right, Pacific. Good point, Chris. I was just going to say, good two-way action on both the side and the total. We're sitting at 53 right now. You get 52, 52.5, up as high as 54. So, but you're going to position nicely. But here it is, Duke. It just doesn't sound familiar, but Duke in one of the higher handle games on a football Saturday. It's not a basketball Saturday.
No, there's people on both sides, Duke and Notre Dame, who absolutely despise both teams.
Oh yeah,
and that's fine. Come on in, and I hate Duke. I'm going to bet Notre Dame. I hate Notre Dame. I'm betting Duke. I know right where you could go and express your opinion.
I actually bet Duke already this week.
Did you?
Yeah, mine. I don't know. My numbers actually came for the number that your 5.5, 6 is right.
Yeah,
but I don't know how Notre Dame is going to react to what just happened to them.
Well, that's a good question.
And again, we're dealing with college kids. Now, look, it could work totally against me, and Notre Dame comes out and they're a lot mentally tougher than I realized, and they smack Duke around. Wouldn't shock me, but to lose in that fashion in a game where Notre Dame was the better team for the majority of that game.
I agree.
Against Ohio State.
Yeah.
And you lose by 1 yard on a play where you had 10 guys on the field.
I still am scratching my head over that. That's
brutal.
Just ridiculous.
Absolutely brutal. So that was the main reason for Duke. And I think Riley Leonard's really good. I think Riley Leonard's going to do a better job than McCord did last week, even with all the talent around him at Ohio State. All right, let's go to this one, Chris. I know we've been waiting all day to talk about Nebraska football. Nebraska at home in Lincoln welcomes Michigan to town. Michigan still has not covered a game yet this year. They pushed last week against Rutgers. I love this. Michigan's an 18-point favorite with a game that has a total of 40.5.
I know. Is that amazing? Wow. Yeah, and this reminds me of, I might as well mention it. We got our highest scoring team, and I always pencil in, well, what's the theoretical score? Oh, geez, what the hell is it's not very good. For Nebraska, it's going to be about 9 points is what we got to pencil it in for. But this one, we were at 17 pretty much all week. And then today, the money, and matter of fact, I had great two-way action on this game. And then one of my sharp guys laid me 17. I didn't move it because he didn't make a full bet. They came back and bet it again.
Oh, boy.
Said, okay, now I got to look at this one. I went to 17.5, and it was within minutes after that, I got another guy laid me the 17.5. I went to 18. I'll tell you the truth, one of the big guys just laid me 18.5 before we came on, or laid me 18. I did not go to 18.5, but I thought about it. But again, Jeff, you mentioned it, the total is 40.5.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I'll probably take another whack before I move it, but they did lay me the 18.
There's two teams that we've been waiting to, I guess, explode, right, so far.
Michigan's one of them.
Michigan and Georgia.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, and they've gone through the motions. They've not looked particularly good. You mentioned Georgia's first half performance earlier against South Carolina. This is definitely... Listen, Nebraska, they corrected things after those first two losses. This is going to be the best defense that Michigan has faced so far this year. A terrific setting in Lincoln. So, points are valuable, especially with the total being as low as it is. So it's going to be an interesting. We're going to find out some more things about Michigan here, but as a result of their performance and Georgia's. There's a lot more tightening in the power ratings.
I almost feel inclined to take Nebraska in this game because of the total. Now I think this Nebraska team is awful, but man, offensively they're really bad.
Their defense is
still
good.
okay. Yeah, and you mentioned it, Vinny. Like just going back to Michigan, like you and I had this discussion. I don't remember if it was Monday or Saturday last week, but the alteration of the power ratings at this point now, like the preseason stuff starting to drift away now as we're a month into the season. And look, Georgia, still the best team, but based off of what we've seen for the first month, this thing is a lot tighter. I think you can make an argument upward of 10, 11 teams right now have a legitimate shot to win the whole thing.
There's 10. Well, I'll tell you what. There's probably at least 15 to 20 teams within 10 points of each other in terms of at least my power ratings. So, I mean, Georgia, Chrissy and I were pretty close on Georgia going into the season, probably about 6 points better than everybody else. That's not the case anymore.
That's tightened up.
I mean, it's so, and again, performance and results, you have to adjust.
Yeah, this is one of those games. I usually don't go with diminishing returns in college. It's usually the other way around. But this one, I made Michigan higher, but I can't beef with the number that was 17 because when you look at the total, it's 40. And the fact is, diminishing returns usually mean the game's a little closer than your power ratings. Right. And this one would be classic in that regard. The total's 40 and, 18's getting up there. But listen, the wise guys laid me 17, 17.5, and even one guy came in and laid me the 18.
Right.
I got to respect that, but, I'm not shivering in my boots. I mean, they kick off, I'll be fine.
Hey, look, Michigan winning 21-3 makes a lot of sense.
It sure does.
I mean, it absolutely does with the way that Michigan has looked so far in the early go of it. Let's keep this thing rolling here. Sports by the Book here at the South Point studio. I'm Jeff Parles, Vinny Magliulo alongside Chris Andrews here as well. We had the Jimmy Vaccaro appearance earlier in the show. Vinny's
there may be another one.
There may be another one.
You
never know. We may see Jimmy.
He has unlimited.
Could be 3 appearances. You never know.
There's no limit.
Let's go to this one in Boulder. As we all anticipated, 10 a.m. local time in Boulder for this one.
That's weird.
USC against Colorado, Chris. And Colorado was exposed last week. Not much of a shock to me. And a lot of sharper bettors did lay points, even though you did say good two-way action a week ago on the Ducks and the Buffs last week.
Yeah.
This is really not moved at all. You opened 21. 5 minutes later, you went to 21.5.
Well, you got the clock on me now, Jeff.
Oh,
Okay.
blame the site.
Okay, all right.
But yeah, no, 21.5 on USC is not moved since you put it up.
Boy, they jump off the bandwagon
Very quickly.
Yeah, I think this number's just about right. I made the game 21. Here we are, 21.5. Total's a little high, 73. I don't really favor anybody, but boy, they did jump off Colorado quick. Yeah. By the way, I had David Purdom, a good friend of mine from ESPN. I hope to have him on the show at some point. He says, "Boy, I heard you guys took a lot of money on Georgia on the money line." I said, "Dave, you're right. I did. I still needed. I'm sorry, not Oregon."
Yeah.
I said, "I'm sorry. I still needed Oregon." So yeah, some of the guys came in. Yeah, we were. I know Krakenberger talked about. He made a big bet here. Yeah. Well, we were welcome to have it. We had a ton of money, point spread and money line on Colorado last week. So we were welcoming a lot of Georgia money. We had it. That was. I don't now. Listen, we're early in the season, but I'm gonna have to look. But that's going to be one of the highest bet games of the year for us.
SC. Look, we know Hunter's out, right? So, but SC, this earlier start probably impacts
for
them more than Colorado. We know SC can score. We know Colorado can score. Hence the high total. But I don't know. SC's defense. We saw it last year, and I'm seeing it this year. They give up points as well as they can score points.
They can't tackle anybody. They miss so many tackles. Yeah. It's unbelievable. Because they got speed. They're in the right position, and guys break tackles on them. I don't know. It's just incredible.
So they last week. Arizona State is a mash unit at this point, and Arizona State had a legitimate shot in that game.
I needed USC in that game. I could see early on I had no chance.
Yeah,
it was just one of those. I had no chance in that game.
I tell you looking at the start time, 3 touchdowns plus over 3 touchdowns. Deion Sanders probably figures out a way to motivate his team off of last week's debacle. I could see where points would be
By the way,
a premium.
Nothing. I hate to interrupt you, but
yeah,
the kid, and I'm horrible with the names. Everybody knows that. The kid that got hurt for Colorado,
Hunter,
and the
Travis
kid that
Hunter.
hurt him from Colorado State, they met, and they have a little video of those guys, and it's really kind of touching.
Yeah.
I think that's
they went bowling.
The way sports, they went bowling, and God bless them. That's sports should be like that.
Good one. Good said. Well
let's hit this one real quick on the local angle here in town because
break up the Rebels.
The Rebels 3-1.
They're 11-point favorites.
11-point favorites at home against Hawaii. But people have been coming in betting the dog in this game, Chris.
Yeah. Well, I think the number's a little high, but a lot of money on this total. This is where we've really done a lot of business. Hasn't moved a ton, but got a lot of money. Under 59.5, under 59. And by the way, I see both those numbers still out there. Yeah. 59.5 and 59, but they bet me under. And we took a couple of big whacks. I got one kid I put on for a little bit more because he comes in and fires. And I told Vinny before we got on the air, the kid bet me 80-some thousand last week and 120,000 this week. And he's not just, betting, numbers and all that. He comes in, he bets. So he took a couple whacks under on this one, and so right now we're going to need it over pretty good. But the kid bets. God bless him.
Trying to figure out the last time UNLV was an 11-point favorite. Actually, Chris, we opened this game 12. I think they laid it
12.5, right?
Right. It went initially. Money came in on UNLV.
We did. We opened 12, and I think we went to 12.5.
Now it's
the other way.
Now it's about Hawaii. So, but, hey, good. What's good? Good for our local guys.
By the way, there's no lack of Hawaiians in this town either.
Yeah, that is also.
What do they call it? The 8th Island or 9th, whatever.
9th Island, right? Ninth Island Bowl.
Yeah, a lot of Hawaiians have settled in the valley here.
Let's go to Starkville next. Alabama on the road against Mississippi State. 46 the total here, Chris. Tied off their win last week and an impressive second half en route to victory over the Rebels, Ole Miss. 14.5-point favorites on the road in this one.
It was funny. We had Alex White on the show last week.
Yep.
And she said, "Boy, I made Alabama an 11-point favorite." My first thought, is she nuts? then I watched the game. We opened this game 14. We're up to 14.5. It's a well-bet game. Obviously, they bet the favorite a little bit, but only a half-point move. So pretty good two-way action on this one. And I think I had some total play on this. Where am I at here? Yeah, a little bit between 45.5 and 46.5. So good two-way action there. So right now, looks like a pretty well-bet game. And as it stands right now, I'm not going to need anything too bad.
I'm curious to see how Alabama responds. I mean, they responded last week.
Yeah.
So now the response here on the road, terrific second half, because they really had not looked good all season. And based on the quarterback play, right? I mean,
right.
We have talked about it quite a bit. The fact that they added a quarterback after the spring game. Again, we referenced the transfer portal, but it looks like that's been squared away after going back and forth a couple of games. So I'm curious to see how Alabama responds here, because they did respond exceptionally well last week.
Let's go to Norman next, guys. Future SEC member Oklahoma welcomes Iowa State in. Total hasn't moved at all. It's been 48.5 the whole week for you guys. But the Cyclones did get bet. You opened 21 and down to 20.5, then 20, and stood pat on 20 the whole week, basically, Chris. And I'll just throw this out there, and we'll get to Texas in a little bit because they play Kansas. Red River's next week. And they're both big favorites at home. The expectation is 5-0 versus 5-0 at the Cotton Bowl next week. This is a pretty brutal look-ahead spot for Oklahoma, all things considered.
It is, but I have to. I think the number's a little cheap.
Okay.
I like the favorite here. Just Iowa State. I don't know if they can score to keep up with these guys. If Oklahoma goes up, early in the game, 17-0, 24-0. I mean, yeah, the back door is always open with a 20-point dog. But I'm not sure Iowa State has it in them to cover this number. And I know there's a look ahead, and we're talking about kids. Probably these kids were recruited by Texas. I'm sure that most of them were.
Yeah.
Decided to go to Oklahoma. So it's going to be a big game for them. But I still think this number just looks a little soft to me. I think the opening number at 21 was much better.
Yeah, 3 touchdowns. I mean, Iowa State, we saw them score points. We referenced it earlier, but Oklahoma, it's a constant press, right? I mean, no matter what portion of the game they're in, it's just push the ball downfield.
Oklahoma did get held to 20 last week against Cincinnati.
Cincinnati's a better defense than
it's
this one.
I'm more concerned about Iowa State scoring in this game. Oklahoma winning this game 27-3 makes a whole lot of sense to me. So I would be a little bit concerned on that end. I think I'm with you there, Chris. That's why I didn't bet this game.
Yeah, I kind of like the higher number.
Yeah, even though I kind of that total's interesting, but again, if Oklahoma decides to lay it on them, be looking at 41-10, and you're in trouble, obviously, if you bet under 48.
Yeah, I don't have any action on it.
Yeah, it hasn't moved. It hasn't moved all week. All right, let's go to Auburn here. Jordan Hare for this one. Chris, you haven't moved this line at all. Georgia stayed put all week. 14.5-point favorites on the road at Auburn. Total has gone down from 46.5 to 45 through the week.
Yeah, I got some total action. This is another one of those games. And I usually don't make games on the half point. I make them a whole point, usually.
Right.
And this one I made 14. So I saw 14.5. I said, yeah, that sounds fine to me. I didn't want to dicker with it. If anybody's
there we go.
playing
That's another bingo card.
So I thought 14.5 was a good number. It looks like a pretty good number. We haven't been, we're doing some nice action on the game. Haven't had to move the number. And of course, the total came in with some play on the under. I could see that because Georgia's offense been a little disappointing, and so is Auburn's offense. So I mean, I think under looks like a logical play here.
Yeah, we talked about being curious. I want to see how Alabama follows up after last week. We keep waiting for Georgia to break out, right?
Yeah.
They've not put together a real, I would say, a complete game, a 4-quarter game just yet. Maybe this is when they start getting it in gear. We'll find out.
Auburn's offense against the two real teams they've played this year has looked awful. They looked really bad against Cal. Lucky to win that game. And then last week was a total mess.
Yeah, I think Cal would love to get another shot at this team. I really do.
Cal should have won that game.
They should have won that game.
14-10 out in Berkeley a few weeks ago. All right, let's keep it in the SEC West. Ole Miss, LSU, guys. LSU, Chris, you opened 2.5. It's back to that after touching 3 for a little bit. And the total's at 67.5 here. LSU really struggled last week to beat Arkansas, which was a little bit jarring
Absolutely.
for what LSU was supposed to be. And we already talked about the Rebels. Great first half, couldn't convert fully offensively, and they paid for it last week against Alabama.
But LSU's just been so inconsistent this year. Their opening game, they looked like they weren't going to win 5-6 games this year. Then they followed that up with a great performance, and I really thought they'd blast Arkansas last week. I liked the favorite in that game. And, boy, they were life and death to win that over an Arkansas team that I think has been kind of disappointing this year. And then here we are with it's a tough game. But I know Mississippi and Lane Kiffin doesn't have a great record in close games, close big games. But I don't know. I think the number is good. Let me see what I made this one. Again, I made it pick. So I think it's a tough game. I'd probably, if I was out there betting, probably take the 3, so I'm okay having 2.5 on this game because they're kind of laying it, and that's all right. I'll take my chances with the dog here.
Laying 2.5, taking 3. Yeah, of course, he summed it up. I mean, you got another high total here, which I don't think that surprises either any of us really.
Two teams that I don't trust at all.
That's a good way to put it.
I don't trust either of these teams.
Yeah.
LSU's more talented. But, I mean, that Arkansas team's really not any good, and they really screwed around in that game.
They've been horribly inconsistent.
Yeah.
I mean, both ways, though. Very good and then not so good.
Yeah.
All right, let's get 2 more here in college before we shift over to the pros here today. As we all expected, the biggest game in the Big 12 this week is Kansas and Texas. Right. As we all expected.
What time is tip-off? Oh, wait, sorry. Kickoff.
3:30 in Austin for this one. 3:30 Eastern, 12:30 Pacific for Kansas at Texas. Chris, you opened 17.5, and it has been the KU money coming in on this game. Down to 16 with a total of 61 now.
Well, they climbed or descended the ladder, I would say, with me on this one. They took 17.5, 17, and 16.5, and they haven't bit yet on the 16. I have a feeling they might. This falls into your theory about the Oklahoma game, big look-ahead spot. And you know what? Kansas is pretty good. Lance Leipold, I think this guy's, I've been rooting for Kansas in football for the last 40 years. So I'm kind of hoping he stays there. I just kind of like them and the whole idea of it. And, I think, again, there's no reason why Kansas can't compete in the Big 8 or Big 12, whatever the hell they're going to be after this, But I made the number a little bit higher, but I could see the play on the dog. I really can.
Can't look ahead here if you're Texas. I mean, it's
a good football team.
This is a good sound football team. To Chris's point, again, look, points are the premium, right? 2.5 touchdowns at 17.5. They've taken it down. Will we get some Texas money tomorrow? Probably. And the total down a couple of points, but. Again, I think there'll be some over money once we get to Saturday midday.
Kansas 17 was the first thing I took this week. Look ahead spot. Kansas is good.
Kansas is good.
Now, last week, granted, they had 2 defensive touchdowns in that game against BYU. That's not replicable. But this is a really good team. And look, if Texas blasts them, then maybe Texas is even better than we already realized.
Well, I think they're a legitimate contender for the playoffs.
And
a very legitimate
absolutely.
Very legitimate contender.
All right, one last one because we had some injury news in this. West Virginia's quarterback Eric Green looks like he is going to play this week in Fort Worth against TCU, Chris. This opened 11, went as high as 14, and now you guys actually moved it a few moments ago back to 13 on West Virginia and TCU with the Horned Frogs laying it at home.
Yeah, the wise guys bet it up, and wise guys came in today and bet it down. They laid 11, 12, 12.5, 13.5. That's how I got to 14. And now they've come in. They took the 14 and took the 13.5. So I'm back to 13. This is going to be a late game, and maybe not like a premier event, but, number dictates a lot of what the action could be. And this number looks like we have a lot of opinions in this game, which I love. So 13 is the number right now. I'm trying to look at what I made. I mean, I made the number 12. Yeah. So it's right in there. So I think it's a good game.
The fact that the number's coming down, I mean, it went up with Green's status uncertain or doubtful. Now that he's probable, and now we're seeing money on West Virginia.
It's one of those where West Virginia's, yes, they've won the last 2 weeks. West Virginia's offense with Green out is averaging less than 4 yards a play. And I don't even think Green's that good, but he's a lot better than the guys behind him. So it would be nothing for me in this now with Green looking like he's going to suit up and go for West Virginia. But Neil Brown needed to save his job, and 3-1 to begin the year, well on his way to keeping his job there in Morgantown.
And he knew that too.
Yeah,
he did.
At 5-7, he would have been out. 6-6, maybe enough.
Incentive.
If he gets to a bowl game,
Probably enough. All right, we're going to take a quick break. When we get back, we're going to the NFL. Week 4 in the NFL, a game in London. Primetime game with Zach Wilson playing quarterback in it. This is exactly what we all wanted before the season. And more when we get back. It is Sports by the Book at the South Point Studio. Welcome back in at Sports by the Book here at the South Point Studio. I get to say this for the first time. Hour number 2 of the show.
I know.
Here at the South Point Studio, I'm Jeff Parles, Chris Andrews, Vinny Magliulo alongside.
2 for you.
Yeah, 2 for you here on these Fridays. We are very excited to bring you the second hour here. NFL here in this second hour. If you missed all the college football talk, don't worry. You'll be able to get the replays on our YouTube page after the show is completed. Don't worry. We will have them there for you if you want to watch back and see what we had to say on the college slate in week 5. All right. Let's go to London. Guys, you going to be up? Coffee and crumpets early in the morning, guys?
I don't know about the crumpets part, but definitely coffee.
I went on my honeymoon. We went to London.
Okay.
I love the Brits. Not so much what William Hill did to me years ago, but I love the Brits. I mentioned that in my book. Did I ever mention my book? Yeah,
I remember that. Yes. I remember
the first of 3 straight weeks of London games.
Mm-hmm.
And then we'll get 2 games in Germany later this year in Frankfurt. Jacksonville, their yearly trip. This is actually will be an interesting talking point next week because Jacksonville is going to be the first team ever to play back-to-back weeks in London.
They're staying there.
They're staying.
Yeah.
They'll get Buffalo next week in a Buffalo home game.
Yeah, Buffalo counts as a home game.
Yeah, I'm sure the Bills love that.
Sure.
And the Jags, the home team this week at Wembley, will take on the Atlanta Falcons. Chris, Atlanta last week, really a step up in class against Detroit, and they did not pass that test at all against the Lions. The Lions winning that game comfortably, and the Jaguars just can't beat the Texans at home for whatever reason. And right now, Chris, you're sitting at 3 with a total of 43. Jacksonville favored as the home team here.
Well, I made the number 2.5 myself. I don't know what's going on with Trevor Lawrence right now. I think I had him penciled in as a very legitimate MVP candidate. We're only a couple weeks into the season. I don't want to drop that just yet. But right now, he has not looked that strong. To me, like I said, I made the game 2.5. I'm not sure I'm going to beat down the doors to go bet 3 if I was out there betting. But, this number has kind of gone back and forth between the 2.5 and 3. And I tried to chart a lot of injuries for this week, and I only got them before today's practices. So that may change. Patterson looks like he's very questionable for Atlanta. And there's a couple injuries on Jaguars that really do kind of scare me a little bit. Agnew's a game time decision. Jones is out. They got a safety, a defensive tackle, and linebacker all questionable. So a couple key defensive guys. I don't know. I probably gun to my head. I think I would take Atlanta in this one.
Zay Jones also out in this game for the Jags.
We often get asked, do these London games being so early for us, do they get that much handle? And the answer is yes. Now, is it a primetime equivalent? No. However, what helps here in this case is South Point, again, being a 24-hour book, not just with kiosks, but staffed as well, a 3-shift town. We do quite well, right, Chris, with the business on these games for those reasons. But again, you look at it, there's 7 games. If you look at last night even, right, it was close. There's a lot of games this week that are hovering right around that field goal.
We were talking about this yesterday.
Yeah.
Almost close to half the card is 2.5, 3, 3.5 this week.
Right there. So
very, very tight across the board in the NFL this week.
Mm-hmm.
I'd have not made a bet on this game, but if you're Jacksonville, you better win this game. Because if you're 1-3 with Buffalo waiting for you next week, that is a bad place to be if you're the Jags.
A guy bet me, this guy, a pretty sharp kid, bets a lot of futures. bet me the Colts to win the AFC.
The whole conference.
To win the whole conference. And once he bet me, I kind of looked, I said, you know what? I think this kid made a pretty good bet. Because I'm sure he'll be in a hedging opportunity. He took a big prize. I think I had 75
that's the
to
only
1
reason to make that bet, right?
Yeah, but still, right now, if you make the playoffs, with a big number like that, and right now that division is wide open. I mean, you think Houston's going to get there?
No.
I mean, Tennessee maybe, but
hasn't looked pretty so far.
Yeah, but the Jags, again,
Right.
so I mean, right now I think that kid made a pretty good bet at 75 to 1. I think they got a good chance to make the playoffs, and right now the reason is because Jacksonville, and again, a lot of injuries for Jacksonville. I don't like this spot for them. I kind of like Atlanta in this game.
Yeah.
Indy's the only team over 500 in the division through 3 weeks. They won on the road with Gardner Minshew playing.
Right.
Anthony Richardson looks like he'll play. We'll get to that game a little bit later.
Good kicker.
Against the Rams. What was that?
Good kicker.
Good kicker.
Which
yes,
is,
yes, very
in
much
close
so.
games. We saw it last week. Yeah.
Absolutely. And I mentioned this to you last week, and it was a little bit better for Philly in victory against the Bucs on Monday. And yes, it's weird to say about a 3-0 team, but Shane Steichen, with what he's done through 3 weeks in Indianapolis, looks like that was a pretty powerful brain that Philadelphia doesn't have anymore.
Mm-hmm.
That may hurt them down the line this season.
Yeah, are they 3-0 against the number 2? Philly?
Yeah. They're at least
and have
impressive.
not looked
They're
good.
at least impressive 3-0 and 3-0 you're ever going to see, basically. But we'll get the Eagles a little bit later. They're big favorites against the Commanders in the division this week. All right, the game of the week. 1 o'clock Eastern, 10 a.m. out here on the West Coast. Buffalo, Miami. Vinny, you and I talked about this game yesterday.
Yeah, I wish it was flexed.
Yeah, well, yeah. The
Too
whole
early
country
for
doesn't
that.
need to be. The whole country doesn't need to be subjected to Zach Wilson, but it will be on Sunday night. So, Vinny, 2.5 to 3 to 2.5 back to 3 at about 1 o'clock this afternoon. 53.5 the total. I think, again, this is two very good offenses, a defense in Buffalo that has had its problems against elite offenses over the last few years, and a Miami defense that has something to prove.
A fantasy football dream right here, right? These two. No surprise, this is the highest total of the weekend as well. And I think that even though the total came down a bit in the last 24 hours, it'll probably go back up. I think the public will love to
bet it on Sunday morning for sure.
In this one, look, here's the thing. And Waddle comes back this week, I think, for the Dolphins. The Bills should probably be undefeated as well. I mean, you take away that some bad decisions on that opening night game by Allen. A terrific Jet defense not taking anything away, and a great catch for their only touchdown. The Bills have gotten back on track. I think that their running game is better this year than in the last couple of years. Their defense is good. This will be the best defense, I think, that the Dolphins have seen so far. But then again, this is going to be the best offense that the Bills have seen so far. So you got this clash here. It's an important game, probably more important for the Bills for this reason, right? If they lose this game, it's a 3-game swing, right? Because of not only just the record, but the head-to-head, tiebreaker as well. So. Again, it's you've got a game here where if folks are laying the Bills at 2.5, taking the 3 with Miami, and I think it's going to be a great 2-way betting game, Chris.
This is one of those games. I'm every time I formulate one opinion, it's like buyer's remorse. I think the other side, But I'll tell you what concern. I got 2 major things that concern me. How can you bet on a team that just scored 70 last week? I mean, everything in my body tells me you got to bet against that team. You just have to. But then I'm looking at, again, I think one thing we want to do on this show to separate us from everything else.
Sure.
I think we have to look at injuries on this because you don't hear too much of that on any of these other shows. Certainly not from a betting angle. You got 3 defensive backs hurt for Buffalo. This is not the team to face with 3 hurt defensive backs. But I do kind of agree with Vinny. I think this is a bigger game for Buffalo. How many years have we seen the first Buffalo-Miami game is played in Miami, which gives Miami a pretty big home field advantage because they go down in September, high humidity, high heat, everything else. Yeah, it's a big home field advantage. Conversely, Miami goes up to Buffalo in December when it's in the teens probably and everything else. And so big home field advantages both way. This one isn't quite so bad this year, but again, I think this puts a little more pressure on the home team that you better go out and win this game. So I don't know. I really can't formulate an opinion on this one. I can't wait to see it, though. I think it's going to be a great game. But I do want to mention one thing, Jeff and Vinny. We have one of our NFL props, the highest scoring team of the day. And the Dolphins are 12-1. The Bills are 10-1. I don't know. I have a feeling we might get bet on either one or both of those.
I think both of them, especially given the fact that it's the highest total on the board. Right?
Yeah.
So,
and
for sure.
Short
It's a
line,
good
too.
price.
But so Jordan Poyer rolled out today. That's the one that's been confirmed on Buffalo. Taron Johnson did practice today. Same with Micah Hyde. So that's good news on that front. Tre'Davious White did not practice today. So if that's something to monitor, potentially, even though that looks more like a rest day more than anything, but down a big starter in the secondary and Poyer for Buffalo against Miami. Jalen Phillips won't play for Miami. That's really the biggest one on the Dolphins side.
Here's the thing about the Dolphins, right? No matter what their defense is doing, they're dangerous because of the speed of their offense and their ability to score points. I think for the Bills to win this game, particularly with the defensive injuries, they're going to have to be able to run the ball. I mean, if they can't run the ball in this game, then the Dolphins can run right over them.
In Buffalo, and you mentioned it, Vinny, this is a much more important game to Buffalo to Miami for everything that you said. And Buffalo's schedule is much more difficult down the stretch than Miami's schedule is. So you better get it done if you're Buffalo this week. But by the way, this is technically 3 straight home games for the Bills with the London game mixed in.
Oh, yeah, that's a big home field advantage. Sure, yeah.
Of course it is.
as we know. Again, Bills 3-point favorites right now here at the South Point against Miami. All right, 0-3 Bulls coming up next.
Back to back here.
Back to back. We start in Charlotte, the less fun of the 0-3 Bulls. Minnesota at Carolina. Looks like Bryce Young is going to play after missing last week.
That's why the number went from 4 to 4.5.
To 4 now, yes.
It's actually 4.5 in a lot of spots.
There we go.
We're at 4. I think, listen, I was not high on this kid. I mean, he's a great college player.
Oh, yeah.
But I said last year I would have taken C.J. Stroud, who looks pretty good so far. I would have taken C.J. Stroud over Young. I know I'm biased. I'm 67 years old. I still look at big quarterbacks being better than little quarterbacks. And, I think Young's just a little too small. And you look at him now in the lineup and the number moved against them. And I think that tells you a lot right there. Now, that's being said, I'm not going to go beat down the doors a bit on Minnesota in this spot and lay 4.5 on the road. I think the number is probably good right now, the way it is. So I don't know. We'll see. Right now, I'm doing some business on this game both ways. We'll see what happens.
Vikings, we talked about more pressure in the previous game. Probably, the Vikings trying to figure things out. It's a complete opposite of last year so far, right? Where they were so successful in one-score games. They find ways to lose these games this year. And, Panthers, decent defense. Just offensively, to Chris's point, you got a rookie quarterback. You're asking an awful lot. But it's also a rebuild. So, again, it's maybe a game 2 where if you can't formulate an opinion ahead of time, that's where you can look in-game. We bring that up because it's become more popular. So whether it's the in-game, the live wagering, or maybe it's, the second half, at halftime, which includes, by the way, the second half, and if it gets to overtime.
Absolutely nothing for me on this game. It would nothing surprises me with Minnesota anymore. If Minnesota went 3-14 this year with going 0-13 in one-score games, it would not shock me if the Vikings do that. And Carolina just looks like one of the 5 worst teams in the league. So no thank you at all on this one. All right, now the game we've all been waiting for.
Speaking of the worst teams in the league.
Oh, my goodness. I mean, this is – Chicago is so bad right now that the Broncos gave up 70 points last week, Chris. And the Broncos – and this is not even a hesitation here. Clearly the correct favorite in this game. Yeah. It did open. You did open to 3.5. They did take the 3.5. Yeah. So the Broncos laying
the 3 though, Jeff.
I imagine. 3 with Denver on the road at Soldier Field. Total open 46, now 46.5 after a little bit of a detour to the under early.
I mean, I don't know what's there to say about this game, but I think again, this is one of those gun to your head kind of games. I think gun to my head, I would take the Bears just because they're home, and I'm not sure there's a home field advantage when you're playing this poorly. And by the way, Jeff Fogel, a guy who I always say read his stuff. Right now, the home field is non-existent in the NFL. I mean, non-existent.
Yeah.
Right now, the way Jeff calculates it, actually the road team has about a 1-point advantage. And this would be a case in point where being home, I don't think helps you in this spot. But and all that being said, I mean, how can you lay 3 or 3.5? Right now, I'm looking at 3 with juice on the favorite in other spots. Of course, we do everything at 11 and 10 here at South Point. But how can you lay 3 on the road with this Denver team? I mean, how can you do that? I don't know. I mean, again, would I beat down the doors and bet the Bears? No. But if I gun to my head, I would take the Bears.
I think when you're looking at this game, compare it to the previous game. This game will do more handle simply because of the things that we're talking about.
The
right?
ineptitude.
But I think what the difference too with these two teams is the expectations going into the season. Right, all summer long, the off season, the way these teams were bet in terms of futures, but especially regular season wins. To be more successful, to make the playoffs. The Broncos to make a big splash in the division. I think so. So I think the disappointment factor adds to it, and frankly, that's going to come into play in a strange way in terms of the handle. This game, I believe, will have more handle. It's in the same time slot, but you're talking about 0-3. But compare it to the Vikings Panthers, I think this one probably gets a more action.
Let's go to an AFC North battle and an important one at that. Baltimore at Cleveland. Both teams coming in at 2-1. Baltimore last week stunned at home by Indianapolis. Cleveland really just methodically beat up Tennessee a week ago. But there are a lot of injury concerns in this game. Starting on the Baltimore end before we get to the big one on the Cleveland side. Bateman and Beckham both out this week at the wide receiver position for the Baltimore Ravens. Kyle Hamilton, they're arguably their best secondary player, questionable this week. Linderbaum, their center, questionable. Marlon Humphrey, out. Ajobo, out. Ronnie Stanley, doubtful. Owe, out. I mean, it's just a galore injuries here on the Baltimore side. But then when you flip it to the Cleveland side, Deshaun Watson's barely thrown the ball in practice this week and is questionable with a right shoulder injury.
Yeah.
My guy who's pretty good with the injuries, I'll tell you, and especially quarterback injuries. He told me he does not think Watson's going to play.
And that would be DTR if Watson is out.
Who's looked good in the preseason. This ain't preseason. This is a really good defense for the Ravens, even with the injuries. That being said, it's a really good defense for the Browns as well. And you can look at this total. I think I opened at 42.5, Jeff.
Yeah.
Down to 39.5.
Yeah.
And, the under looks like the right play in this game. I'm hoping for a miracle to kind of maybe get some by the way touchdowns here. But I don't have a strong opinion on the side whatsoever. But Batonio, am I pronouncing that right? The center for
he's questionable.
He's questionable. Again, my guy, he doesn't think he'll play. So there's a lot of injuries on the Browns besides Watson. Injuries for the Ravens, of course. And, I think if you had to play this game, even at 39.5, a bit of a key number right around in those. Yeah. I think I'd play under or pass. That being said, as a bookmaker, I opened this game 42.5. I'm going to need the game over, but I'm not sure I like my position all that well.
Pay attention to the injuries as always, but I think we've had to in recent years, and this was an expensive lesson, and Chrissy will certainly have a point on this as well. The offensive line injuries have become more important, I think, from our perspective, because professionals, Chris, as you know, they were ahead of it. Professional bettors, I mean, were way ahead of it for when it came time to make plays and focus on those injuries. We're always focused on the skill position injuries,
of course,
but you have to really pay attention to the offensive line injuries. And we saw it last week with the Cowboys. I think we saw it last week with the Ravens as well.
Baltimore last week.
Let me comment on that because I had that in my notes. I wanted to say, the wise guys have always known that.
Yeah.
And I remember back when when it kind of became a little closer to the public eye is when Kansas City was favored by 3.5 over Tampa Bay, even though they had Tom Brady in the Super Bowl. But, I was very comfortable going in that game needing Tampa Bay because they were missing their 2 offensive tackles. Kansas City, I'm talking about.
In that game.
And they couldn't block. And it was absolutely, it was I don't want to say a disgrace, but I mean, you could see they had no chance of winning that game. Mahomes, as much as I love that kid, he's a great, great player. He had no time at all. And last week, the Cowboys, I think it's a twofold experience for them. Number one, they took this team too lightly.
100%.
And the second thing is they had 3 offensive linemen out, and if there's any sport that is like war, where you try to gain territory and everything else, protect your flanks, of course, but you have to be strong through the middle. And this sport now, you have to protect that quarterback. The game's made to protect your quarterback, but you have to do it. And right now, there's a couple teams, if you have your offensive line hurt, they're not being able to do it. And I think this is going to come back. And I think, like Vinny said, the wise guys have been on this for years. And I think it's one of those things now being a little bit more aware to the public. You got to look at those offensive line injuries. And, when it's kind of hard in the pros, but I do it a little bit. But when I look at college football, I mean, first thing I look at as a quarterback is I'm doing my preseason evaluations. The second thing I look at is the offensive line, because it's hard in college football. Like I said, if you're a freshman, you're coming in, you're 6'3", 265, 275. You know what? You just graduated high school. You were a monster. Now you get in the Big Ten, you're too small.
You're average.
So I mean, these guys got to beef up. And, it's hard to beef up that offensive line overnight for college kids. But we're seeing some of that stuff in the NFL as well. Watch those offensive line injuries. They are really, really key.
Critical.
Speaking of offensive line injuries, let's go to Houston next.
Mm-hmm.
Houston and Pittsburgh. Steelers, off their win in Pittsburgh West a week ago at Allegiant Stadium.
That's right.
Steelers are 2.5-point favorites on the road at Houston. Houston, very impressive a week ago. Clearly the better team in Jacksonville, winning comfortably as over a touchdown underdog. Again, yes. Totals up to 42.5 here, Chris. This is another one where offensive line injuries potentially playing a role. James Daniels out for the Steelers. Looks like both starting tackles out yet again for Houston. They didn't play last week and they got away with it.
Center too.
Yes, Dieter is now has been upgraded to questionable, so we'll see there. But Josh Jones out, Laramie Tunsil out for C.J. Stroud and company, but yet still only 2.5 in this game.
Well, I made this game 3. I don't want to go crazy, but I think the Steelers, I think it's a good setup for the Steelers, even though they're coming off a big win. Listen, those offensive line injuries, I know they didn't show last week. Maybe it was the matchup, but you come into this game. I mean, who's going to block TJ Watt? I keep hearing guys are saying about, Micah Parsons is the best player since Lawrence Taylor. And yeah, he's a great, great player. Is everybody forgetting TJ Watt? Look at the difference between when he plays and doesn't play for the Steelers. They're a winning team with him on the field, and they're not with him off the field. I think he's going to provide a lot of trouble for this Steeler team. The Steelers are 2-1. I know they're tied, but they still sit atop the division. And I think the team's pretty good. Now, all that being said, I think Houston, Vinny kind of pointed this out to me last week when we were watching them. He says, they really play hard. They do. It's a team. I think they are well coached finally. And I like C.J. Stroud an awful lot. I'm not sure a rookie quarterback like that is ready to face this defense. I do kind of like the Steelers in this spot.
I thought that I know he's taken a lot of heat. Matt Canada, the offensive coordinator for the Steelers, his first, last year and the first couple of games this year. But they played. I saw a different game plan with them last week against the Raiders here in Las Vegas. Now I want to see if that carries over here. But to Chris's point, I think this is a spot here. Even though the number came down from the 3, I think there's going to be support for the Steelers in this one, particularly by the general public.
Houston is definitely much better coached than they've been over the last few years. Ryan's a huge upgrade over Coley and Lovie Smith. I'm kind of with you, Chris. This is, a little less than the field goal on the. Yes, it's on the road. Yes, you're coming off a primetime win. It feels like a good spot for Pittsburgh in this one, which again, they won't have Josh McDaniels not knowing how mathematics works on the other sidelines again. But that's a different discussion.
That's interesting.
For a little bit later. Yeah. God, I still can't believe he kicked. And he had a chance to do it over, and he still got it wrong the second time as well. All right, Indian Rams here. The old Eric Dickerson Bowl here in Indianapolis.
Boy, you're really. Were you born back then?
I was
Jeff?
not.
No,
I was not.
By the way, yesterday it took him an hour and a half today. Yesterday it took him 90 seconds to get to the age references.
Oh my God!
I wasn't even born yet.
I'm sorry.
Today it took 90 minutes. Yesterday it took 90 seconds.
Look, we had the Lions favored at Lambeau for the first time since '86.
Eric Hipple.
I was not around for that one. I was barely around the last time Team USA won in Europe, and it's not going to be breaking that 30-year streak.
Yeah, it won't be on Sunday, I don't think.
I don't think so. But regardless, this is a really interesting one where, yes, the open pick went to Indy 1, back to pick now. I'm really, really curious to see how Indianapolis looks after last week, where Minshew filled in so well and they won the game outright as a big underdog on the road. And now with the rookie Richardson back, I'm just curious to see how this all looks for Indianapolis in this game against a Rams team that really did not play well on Monday night.
They did not, but I also think the Rams are a little better than what we had them penciled in for.
I agree with
that
that
at the beginning of the season. I think the Colts like Richardson, although I'm not sure he gives them a better chance of winning this week than Gardner Minshew does. But, they put their eggs in this kid's basket, and I think, you got to play him if he's healthy. They know they're not going to win a Super Bowl this year, although that one kid bet them. They think
to make it, at least.
They're going to make the AFC. But, I think this is a close game. I think I made the Rams a very slight favorite in this one, but, nothing startling.
I think it was the Rams' offensive line that was their worst. Credit the Bengals on Monday. And then the Colts again. Look, credit Minshew for just being a workman. I mean, look, does he think he should be starting? Yeah, but the guy's a pro, and I give him credit. He does whatever he's asked of. If you have to come in relief, you have to start, whatever the case may be. So credit him there. And this is another game. There'll be some good interest in it. Rams always draw some betting attention. They're always, particularly in multi-leg wagers like parlays and teasers.
This game has been bet to the over, even though it's down from the peak at 47, which was the peak earlier in the week for you guys. Now 46. I do think there's going to be some points in this game.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, probably see the total keep trickling up.
Yeah, Rams bounce back after the bad offensive line performance. Richardson's been good when he's been on the field so far this year.
I think he's been of the three. So
after last week, I think I slide Stroud slightly ahead.
Stroud got it, but I thought Richardson has read the game the best so far.
Young's clearly number three of the three.
Yes.
Let's go to New Orleans next. Tampa at New Orleans. Derek Carr threw the football at practice today.
Yeah.
So it looked like he wasn't going to play. He's now questionable. So really, your good old fashioned game time decision coming with Derek Carr this week. If it's not Carr, it's Jameis. We kind of know what we're getting out of Jameis Winston at this point. Can do some things that are really positive. Also can throw the ball to the other team a lot. Tampa coming off really a nice break back down to earth for them in the blowout loss at home to Philly. Chris, low total here, though. 39.5 now on this total with New Orleans laying 3.5.
Yeah, once again, I look at some injuries here. It looks like, the injury influence, I think, is a little Tampa looks a little more beat up to me.
Yeah.
Now, I think if Carr plays, and I know they're saying it's a game time decision, I have a feeling he's going to play. Just a feeling. I don't know anything solid. But I think if Carr plays, I think New Orleans probably the play in this game, I would think.
Pretty important division game, right? Yeah. I mean, and New Orleans was the favorite going into the season for the division based on Carr. But again, I know it was not their best game of the year. But look, again, Mayfield, he's a warrior. He battles, and he got beat up pretty good on Monday night, but he kept coming. So
I'm looking at Carr's upgraded to questionable.
Upgraded,
So to me, that means he looked okay.
More likely to play.
Yeah, hey, look, this is a division that somehow has 3 2-1 teams in it. Tampa's 2-1 somehow. The Falcons 2-1 with the 2 wins at home. I think Atlanta's home road splits are going to be a lot more noticeable than they've been the last few years.
You think so?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think they're going to be a much better home team than road team. I think Ritter can handle that home environment a lot better than going on the road. For New Orleans, I mean, they should be 3-0, let's face it. I mean, they blew that game badly last week.
17-0 lead
17-0
in the fourth quarter.
In the fourth quarter, Green Bay did nothing the whole game, and they blew it. No reason they should have lost that game. They should be 3-0 going into this one. But regardless, I stayed away. I really want nothing to do with this. I also don't like either of these coaches. I think they're both very good coordinators, but they're both bad head coaches in Allen and Todd Bowles. So we'll stay away.
I would absolutely agree with that.
Yeah, they're both bottom 5 head coaches in the league. All right,
and very good coordinators.
I would take them right now to be my defensive coordinator anywhere, but not my head coach. All right, Philly's been bet this week, Chris. Yeah. They're up to 9 at home against Washington. Total 43. So Washington 2-1. Boy, talk about coming crashing back to earth after the 2-0 start.
Sam Howell, welcome back. Welcome back to the atmosphere.
Well, even you and I talked about this on Sunday last week. I was really surprised that people came flying into bet Washington last week.
They bet a lot of the dogs last week, Jeff. We needed favorites up and down the schedule last week in the NFL.
Yeah, and that's the type of team that Buffalo usually smashes, and they do.
They did.
And, Chris, up to 9 here on this one with Philly laying it at home. Remember, Philly's first loss of the year last year came against these Washington Commanders with Taylor Heineke getting the win on Monday Night Football deep into the season last year.
Well, I got to tell you, even though I made my number a little higher, this looks like a diminishing returns game to me. I think, I thought the opening number of 7 was a good number. I really did. And then they laid that, once you kind of breach the walls at 7 on the favorite, you might as well just go to 9. And I didn't go right to 9. They laid me 8 and 8.5 on this game. But, I'm up to 9. I see 9.5s out there. But I got to tell you, like I said, even though my power ratings came a little bit higher, division game, this number just looks a little too high. I just think the Eagles have not looked that impressive. They're Jeff, you said it before. They're the worst looking 3-0 team. 3-0 and 3-0. And I just think this number's a little bit high. I think I would take the dog in this spot.
And it's so strange to say about a team that, again, still one of the 5 best teams in the NFL, probably, and second favorites in the NFC. But it has not been impressive through 3 weeks, even though 3-0 and 3-0 is all that really matters, right?
Well, I give them credit. I thought their defense played very well.
They were very good on Monday night.
And I think when you look at their defense and you look at the result of the Washington game on Sunday, that's has a lot to do with the number going from 7 to 9 and growing. So, Eagles will be a big teaser team. One of the higher teaser teams this week, Chrissy, right? I mean, let's face it.
For sure. Yeah, big money line, too.
Yeah.
Philadelphia, by the way, Philadelphia's schedule is very manageable to get to 6-0. Obviously, big favorites this week. They'll be favored in L.A. next week, and they will be favored in the Meadowlands. Again, the Jets still have never beaten the Eagles in a regular season game, which is one of the more miraculous stats in the history of the league at this point. What a primetime game on October 22nd, Sunday night, Miami at Philadelphia. Will be a spectacular game a few weeks from now, with the Eagles probably getting in there at 6-0. All right, a rematch of a playoff game from 2 years ago. The Bengals in Nashville to take on the Titans. Burrow, you know what? All things considered, Burrow throws the ball 50 times. You win the game. You still didn't look 100% healthy, but at least you won the game if you're Cincinnati and you're on the board here in 2023. Chris, when you open this, am I reading this right? You opened Tennessee 1.5 point favorites, and then flipped it to Cincinnati minus 2.5 after seeing it.
Yeah, well, that was after. So we put this up before Burrow played
Sunday night. Yeah,
Sunday night. So we put it up before then. So at that point in time, he was very questionable. It's not like I had any business. Everybody was kind of just
Waiting.
very, very much waiting, and we closed the game at kickoff. So when we reposted it at 2.5. Now, if he's 100% healthy, that's a cheap number.
Yeah.
I don't think he's 100% healthy. I don't think he's close to 100% healthy. I like this kid a lot. He's a tough kid. He's gonna go out there and win. I love the stuff that he said in the preseason. They said, "How long do you think this window's open?" He said, "As long as I'm playing here." And I love that. I think it was a great statement, and I believe that with the Bengals. But all that being said, I'm not sure he's 100%. And I think at 2.5, it's almost telling you something. If he was 100%, this game would be at 3. He's not 100%. The game hasn't gotten to 3. A lot of times, and I say this, it's counterintuitive. You take the 2.5. Now, of course, you want to take 3. You want to get the best of the number. But my point is, if a number's sitting there at 2.5, the dog's probably the right side. Conversely, if a number sits at 3.5 rather than going to 3, and again, you want to lay the 3, of course, but the favorite is probably the right side. But I think in this case, I think Tennessee's probably the right side to take in a home spot like this.
I think we've seen the Titans struggle, right? I mean, offensively, but I think the biggest tell in terms of the Bengals and Joe Burrow is just how many passes has he thrown beyond 15, 20 yards? Not too many.
And
he threw 50, right?
Yeah.
So that tells you that he's not 100%, and so does the number, to Chris's point.
The timing's off. I mean, just watching them on Monday night, when you don't practice, your timing's off. That's all it is for Cincy. With that said, Tennessee, I know they beat the Chargers 2 weeks ago. This is not a good football team by any stretch of the imagination.
No.
Despite having one of the better coaches in the league in Vrabel. Just not a good team talent-wise at all this year. All right, to the late games. Chris, the Raiders always get bet here, as we know. Jimmy Garoppolo is still questionable here with this concussion.
Yeah.
There are a whole boatload of injuries on the Chargers side. Derwin James.
Including Bosa.
Bosa questionable. Eckler doubtful, probably won't. More than likely won't play.
I don't think he's going to play.
Derwin James, doubtful, probably won't play. Corey Linsley, their center, he's out. Few other secondary guys, J.T. Woods, Deion Leonard, out in this game. There are injuries galore in this game. Right now, the only guy who's been listed out for the Raiders is Curtis Bolton. Max Crosby's questionable. Garoppolo's questionable. Yeah. Nate Hobbs is questionable. This is, again, we're sitting right now with the Chargers 5-point favorites, total 48.5. This is a game I really want to not touch whatsoever.
This is a tough one. I mean, you look at injuries. We get to this point in the year, injuries really start taking their toll. And right now, where'd they take the bigger toll? Good question.
Right,
I don't know. Is Garoppolo playing? I told you my guy's usually pretty good with the quarterbacks. He has no idea if Garoppolo's good or not. I have no idea here either. Bosa on the other side, how much does he mean to this team? Means an awful lot. Boy, this is a stay away game for me. I got it up at a dead number 5.
Yeah.
Ordinarily, I would do a ton of business on this game because just the rivalry goes back to 1961. But I'm not sure people were very.
How can you be active on a game?
Yeah,
with these injury reports? And also too, Vinny, we saw Aiden O'Connell play very well in the preseason for the Raiders. It looks like it's going to be Hoyer. We know what Hoyer is at this point. He is a shell of himself. He's ancient at this point. If he plays, I don't see the Raiders moving the ball even with the injuries on the Chargers.
He's on the downside of a very mediocre career.
That's a very good way to put it.
I think the biggest factor of all the injuries is obviously going to be Garoppolo. Once that's announced, then this game will probably get off the dead number of 5.5. So, has there been a game recently in recent memory though in the 4th week of the season that's like critical to both teams? I mean, when you think about it, right? Let's get aside the 0-3 teams that we talked about earlier in the 10 o'clock Pacific session, part of the schedule. But right, I mean, so many high hopes for both of these teams. I know the Raiders were the 4th pick in the division by virtue of the odds, but I mean, the way they've performed, particularly offensively, I think has been a surprise to people.
Look at the Chargers. They were this close to being 0-3 themselves.
Exactly.
I mean, Herbert has been awesome this year, and the Chargers are 1-2.
Their defense is just. It's been awful. It was awful towards the end of at critical points at the end of last season, and it's begun the season awful.
Staley is one of those guys. I always say these coaches sound great on the way in. They don't sound so great on the way out.
Well,
he's not out yet.
Yeah, he'll be out.
He might be. Yeah.
He'll be out. But I mean, he stuck to his guns on the fourth down decisions in year one, and totally got scared off of it last year. And then if you have no identity, you're not succeeding in this league.
Sometimes when you stick to your guns, you forget that there's guns pointed at you, too.
That's also fair, Vinny. That is also very much fair. All right, let's go to Dallas next. Cowboys, New England, Patriots coming off their first win of the year. Dallas, we mentioned it earlier, offensive line injuries and taking a team too lightly leads to an inexplicable loss in Arizona as one of the bigger favorites on the board last week. Chris, you opened 7, now 6.5. Dallas laying it, and the total has bounced all over the joint in this one.
Yeah, I mean, I thought 7 was a good opening number, but I'm still looking at these offensive line injuries for Dallas, and they don't seem any better.
Tyron Smith's out.
You got Zach Martin questionable. Edoga, I can't pronounce it. Bledaz, whatever his name is.
Him.
Yeah, that guy. These guys are all questioning. Yeah. I mean, that doesn't read well for me. Dak Prescott has had a habit of turning the ball over in key situations, and you're going against Bill Belichick in a game like this. I think that even though I made the game 7, I opened at 7. I saw the money show at +7. I'm down to 6.5. I kind of agree with the move. I think New England is probably the right side here. I think it's 7 certainly. I think you'd have to make that a take. 6.5 makes it a little more questionable.
Of all the names, the most key name that Chris said was Belichick. Belichick is there's one way to beat Dallas, I think, is to be able to run the football. And now you got Ezekiel Elliott. How's the irony of Ezekiel Elliott coming back to Dallas and maybe haunting them this weekend? I'm not saying it's going to happen, but it's certainly a factor. And Belichick knows that, right? I mean, let's face it. And he's good at identifying not only his strengths and weaknesses, but obviously the other team's strengths and weaknesses too. Look what he did with the Jets last week. He took away their running game and said, "Okay, let Zach Wilson, beat us." Well, it wasn't going to happen. So, but here I think the key is if the Patriots are going to want to get into this game, if they can establish some kind of run and keep Dallas's offense off the field, then I think that's certainly. But that's the take on the number of 7.
We talked about offensive lines. I mean, listen, I don't want to take anything away from Tom Brady. Obviously, he's, the all-time great. But you look back, they had great offensive lines throughout his whole career. Always. What was a coach? Dante Scarnecchia?
Yeah.
I mean, they had great one of your men. Well, a great he was a great coach, and they always had terrific offensive lines, and Brady was well protected. We're not seeing that right now with Dallas, and I think Dak Prescott has a habit of turning the ball over. I think it probably got overplayed a little bit. There's a lot of luck involved, but still, you're looking at 1 or 2 plays like that in the course of a game. I think Belichick's the kind of guy that could take advantage of that. I think 7 would definitely be a take for me.
I agree on the 7 being a take. I also kind of like this game under as well. Obviously, I missed the 40. There is some 44 still out in the market a little bit on this. Dallas's defense is just hard to block. And New England's offense, I mean, through the first 3 games of the year, they scored 17, 10 last week, or 10 against Miami, and then 13. Yes, I know they ended up with 15 last week, but 2 of those were on the ridiculous safety that Wilson took at the end of the game. This is not a good offense, but Belichick's defense is going to show up here. I think that would be the way I lean. I agree with you. Take it at 7, but not the 6.
I see some 6 popping up too. So I mean, that makes it a little more questionable.
Yeah.
But I don't see a 7 out there. I see 7 even. You'd have to lay $1.20 on a dog. Yeah, listen, it's hard enough to win at 11-10. You know, I don't recommend buying too many points, but I would definitely look around. Hopefully the public comes in on Dallas. If you're looking to take the dog, look for a 7 in some of those spots.
Let's go to Santa Clara next. Niners and the Cardinals. Niners 3-0. Cardinals, they're not going 0-17, guys. They got their win in week 3. And quite frankly, there's a legitimate argument to be made. The Cardinals should be 3-0 right now.
They could absolutely be 3-0.
Easily could
and I'll
be
tell you
3-0.
what, this is another team that Chrissy and I were talking about. This team plays hard.
They do.
Yeah,
They
do,
don't.
yeah.
They do.
For a team that's supposed to be quote unquote tanking, which by the way, these are professional athletes. They're fighting for their jobs.
Every guy.
Okay, and including the staff. So I've got to tell you, you watch this team. They battle the entire game. So now, does that mean they're going to win this game? Look, they're 14-point dogs for a reason. First, San Francisco, I think, is the best team in the league right now. Although they've got a couple of injuries this week, including Deebo Samuel and Ayuk.
Ayuk will play. Kyle Shanahan.
But he's not 100%, right?
Yeah, he is going to play though.
But I just biggest number on the board, and again, no, there's a reason for it. But look, just saying, Cardinals, they could very well be 3-0 when you think about it going into this game.
To me, it's another diminishing returns game. I think if you look strictly power ratings on paper, probably the Niners are more than 14-point favorites. Because I think I agree with Vinny. I think right now, I think they are the best team in the league. Either side. But 14 points, that's a mountain to climb in the NFL.
Big number.
It really is. And I think, you talked about a couple of the injuries, Deebo Samuel, Ayuk's going to play, probably not 100%. To me, 14 looks like a take. You got to take that 14 in this spot.
Survivor pools this week, the Niners will be used. That's all I'll say.
Yeah.
The Niners will be used.
If you don't have to save them for later in the year, they definitely got to be used.
They'll be used this week. They do play on Christmas, though, against Baltimore. So we'll see. All right. The game we mentioned earlier, because you guys took a big 22-dime bet on the New York Jets at 9.5. Vinny's shaking his head.
Brave soul.
Yes. Good luck to whoever made that bet. Chris, you're sitting at 9, which actually is the market high right now, surprisingly enough. It's mostly 8.5 in the market. KC laying it, total down to 42 on this one, where you guys actually are sitting at the market high on the total at 42. I mean, what else has to be said about Zach Wilson at this point?
Oh, yeah. Listen, we've gone that ad nauseum, but, the guys, they laid me 9. They laid me 9.5 with the Chiefs. I didn't go to 10. I said, that's just too high. And the guy came in and took the 9.5. So, maybe I made one smart move this week anyway. But I think that, let's not forget, this Jet team still has a hell of a defense. And I don't know home field. Well, I don't know if that helps or hurts, really, with all the negativity around Zach Wilson and the Jets. I don't know the home team really means that much. But the thing about Kansas City, they win. I always hear about it. It's hard to go to Arrowhead and win. Well, it's hard to play Kansas City anywhere and win.
Correct.
They're good. So I don't take that much away from them being on the road. I don't know. I mean, I can almost guarantee it. Come kickoff, I'll be rooting for the Jets. I can tell you that, but I'm not sure the right side here.
There's a lot of talk about Zach Wilson, obviously. From fans, from certainly bettors. But you know what? It's on the coaches. I don't think they're doing everything they can to put this kid in the team in a position to have a chance at success. So I mean that comes down to to management. It's like the end product is a direct reflection of management in any business, and it's just not good. And it's now. Again, we go back to the point where teams not taking. These are pros, right? Well, pros, step it up. All right, yeah, their defense is good, and you've been on the field a whole lot. But the rest of the offense, it's not like they don't have any offensive players. They've got a pretty good receiving core and running backs that have done zero. You can say, well, the offensive lines of play. Well, again, I go back to the coaching stuff. Do a better job. Matt Canada did a better job of coaching, I think, Kenny Pickett last week, and putting in a better
he made some good adjustments.
But I haven't seen that yet with this team. Now, that said, I think for this number to move much more, I know we talked about it earlier when Jimmy was here, Will the number go up? I think it's going to depend on what the rest of the day looks like and how, because this is the primetime game and everything is going to be going to it. So I think that's also going to impact where this number winds up.
It's also rare that you see a total this low in a Kansas City game now. 42 is low.
That total's predicated on the Jets' offense.
Oh, trust me, I understand that. But again, that's just, again, a testament to what, A, the Jets' offense is in a negative light, and B, Jets' defense still respected in the market here.
Mm-hmm.
So
listen, their defense is good. And like Vinny said, you're playing defense for the Jets. You're playing any position on the Jets. Yeah. You're fighting for your job.
Right.
You're 25 years old. I mean, even what's the worst paid guy on the team play?
$700,000.
Yeah, $700,000-800,000. Yeah. You know what? You get cut. You know what are you doing next week? Tendon bar.
Go to the practice squad and make a lot less than that.
Yeah, if you're lucky, you go to the practice squad. Some guys don't make the practice squad. So these guys are out there singing for their supper all the time and playing hard. And another thing, that kid that in your high school that was like the best athlete and he was like dominating all that, he's probably not good enough to be on one of these teams.
Right.
And if he is good enough, there's 52 other guys that are just as good.
Yeah.
So these, don't just think this team can't win, it can't do this and that. They can go out there and play some good defense, and I'm not sure they can win this game, but they can't certainly cover this number.
I was trying to figure out what the worst case scenario for the Jets would be this week, and I think it is actually, this just will sound totally ridiculous, but the worst case scenario for the Jets this week is Zach Wilson plays well and they score like 24 points and they lose the game. That's like the worst case scenario that can happen.
You sound like such a negative Jet fan.
I know.
But I know people have been tortured for the last, 60. Well, you're only 30-some years old. But
seasoned.
Vinny's been tortured for the last 60-some years.
That's right. Yeah.
All right, one last one.
Ever since Super Bowl III. That's been...
let's talk about that.
Look, they'll be able to fall back on having the most important win in the history of pro football. That's all they have.
Even though that's 30 years before you were born.
No, I know, but that's legitimately the only thing that they have in the franchise's history. All right, one last one before we get out of here today. Monday night, I just want to bring this up, Chris, because this has bounced all over the place.
Yeah.
Seattle at the Giants. Opened Seattle 1.5. Got the Giants 1, and now back to Seattle 1, and the total's been bet up from 45 to 47.
A lot of business, a lot of opinions. I hope the game doesn't come tied. If it does, I'm going to be in big trouble there.
Your friend that took the half point on the pick game will be very happy if that happens.
That story's in the new book I just sent into the publisher, too,
Excellent.
by the way. But, yeah, listen, I really think, I hate to say it, I think Seattle's kind of the right side here. A
lot of injuries on the Seahawks side.
A lot of injuries there, but boy, this Giant team just has not been good. Another team been very disappointing. Last year I remember going into the preseason last year. I remember telling my people back there, I says, watch out for the Giants. They're going to be pretty good this year. And about after week 2 or 3 of the preseason, I says, you know what I said about the Giants? Forget I ever opened my mouth. I don't want to hear that again. And every year I kind of fall for this Giants stuff that, they're a good team. The Maras and the Rooneys are close friends. You got the girl named Rooney Mara, so I always kind of had like a little spot in my heart for the Giants. But, boy, oh boy, they just, this team has been a bad franchise. Really, even when Eli Manning, those were some of the biggest Super Bowl upsets of all time, but they did win them, God bless. But this has not been a good franchise for a long time.
I mean, the second one, the team had a monstrous negative point differential in the regular season. Still found a way to beat New England and Indy that year.
Yeah.
I think the big key here is, we talk about injuries, and there's pretty significant defensive injuries to Seattle, but it's going to come down to Barkley's status, right? I mean, he's had a week and a half. Because he did not play in the San Francisco game last week on Thursday. So if he plays, I think you'll see some interest in the Giants. But, I think it's so far two-way, and I think it'll probably continue that way, whether he plays or not. Maybe a late move on the Giants.
If Barkley plays, I would imagine this gets back to pick.
I'm looking. He did practice.
He did practice today, yeah. So, but I would say this probably closes pick if Barkley's in. If not, Seattle's slight favorite. I agree with Chris. I think that Seattle is the right side, even with all the injuries. This Giant team's really not any good. They really aren't. They should be 0-3. The miraculous comeback in the desert, the only reason they're not right now. All right. Football Friday, guys.
Football Friday.
2 hours.
2 hours.
Right. 2 hours. A lot of football.
Very easy. A lot of football every Friday. This show Vinny, Chris, and I, 2 to 4 here on the network. Again, South Point Studio, where you can find everything on YouTube. If you missed any of the show, make sure to go back and watch the replay. We'll have it all tweeted out as well, so you can find that as well. And SOPO Studio LV on Twitter or X or whatever we're calling it these days.
Twitter.
Yeah, it's still Twitter, 100%.
Your
Where you
phone.
can find it. Again, yes, on the phone as well. And big thanks to Jimmy as well for stepping
That's
in
right.
earlier in the show. And we're back tomorrow, Vinny, myself, you, Alex White, back tomorrow morning, 8 to 9 Pacific time right here at the South Point Studio. For Chris and Vinny, I'm Jeff. We'll see you next time here at Sports by the Book at the South Point Studio.